Feed me more. Welcome to Conversation with the Big Guy. I am the Big Guy, Ryback, and I'm sitting here with the one, Pat Buck.
Hey everybody, this is Pat Buck. We're on episode 5. We've been off and running for months strong, even though we've been recording this in one session. Booze is starting to get to me, so I might be a little slower on this episode, but
I'm all right though, so hopefully I could catch up throughout this episode.
I think when we started this, we just we had all these different ideas and topics, and now I'm starting to realize this really is just one big conversation. And you know, I think we're just talking about, we're just kind of reminiscing and talking about shit and things we remember that entertain us, and I think they'll entertain people. One, because they're interesting stories, but two, because we're all marks. Yeah, it's real, and we all want to hear like stuff in and around. Wrestling's always been the kind of
focal point of our lives.
I guess so. It's been the common denominator of everything that we've based our fucking lives around.
Yeah.
Fake fighting.
Those fake punches and fake kicks.
They don't like hearing that.
I got a lot of when I did some Snapchats on a Periscope thing a little back, just to kind of say hi to everybody, and then you get these fucking marks and like show up on your timeline on Twitter and whatnot, and I block each and every one of them because they don't deserve to be in my world of positivity, but who just are outraged that I use that word. I'm like, motherfucker, I've been doing this, I've lived this, I know it, I know how real it is and whatnot, but don't kid yourself. It's fake punches and fake kicks, so it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean,
but we love it. We all love it.
We love it, respect it. We
absolutely.
But I don't know where we were last time. My memory's kind of foggy. We were talking about a point where you got like rehired. I'm in my fucking 5-year depression. Actually, no,
still not hired.
Still not hired.
Watching everybody leaving. While you're still plugging away. And
I think I've wrestled 5 people, and they've been signed. Not necessarily because of that match, because I don't know if that really is a real thing. Like, I think it was more just take bumps for these guys, and they've gotten hired.
They had their eye on those guys already to begin with. And I think you were always the guy that they kind of organized that, where they knew they were going to get a good match out of it. I
appreciate that. I don't even know what that much thought went into.
No, but I think that was the safe bet. Put Pat in there with him, that he will get a match out of him. Whereas it was more of a gamble with other talents, where I think that they were convinced they had their eye on these people. And they would have had to royally fucked up to really not get hired.
And that was my whole pitch to them. I was like, because the whole time period where you and I were around Developmental, the only guy in charge was Laurinaitis. And my whole thing was, okay, you don't believe in me, just hire me so I can work with other people. I'll stay in the fucking system and collect a paycheck. But
I've always said you need guys like that, and they did that like
the fucking baseball. Like you need people working that are never going to get called up.
And Kalen Croft, and in like a guy like Kalen Croft, the Dude Busters with him and Trent Beretta, and Kalen Croft was so good at making other people look good. And he was light as a feather, and everybody loved him, and he never took anything personal, and he enjoyed going out there and making other talents. But they were like, oh, you don't have the mindset that you want to be world champion. Fuck you, you're fired. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, no, we need these guys. Yeah. You need guys that want to play ball and that's why I said everybody's important, and they are. But they end up ruining guys' values so much, and then they're like, oh, you're a piece of shit. See you later. It's just stupid.
Yeah, and now Croft too, who's pretty talented. I think it's awesome that he's a full-blown, what is he, art
school teacher?
Yeah,
married, living life, and doing very well for himself, and he has his act together, and he's very thankful for his time in pro wrestling, but he's one of those guys that was able to move on from it and not let it consume him and be bitter or negative.
And be cool with it.
Yeah, and it made him who he is today, and I always enjoy whenever I get a Vox from him, and he's one in my circle of guys I talk to. So
yeah, he's great. I myself am very bitter, but I use that bitter. I don't know.
It fuels your desire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my thing. I kind of put that in a lot of people's heads, and I think people have actually taken this idea and kind of been like, but I always wore.
It's okay to be bitter or be angry as long as you use it in a positive way,
and not even in a way.
Yeah.
In a way where like you're not fucking like. There's plenty of guys I know that were wrestling and they're not wrestling anymore, and they're not actively pursuing it, and they're just bitching about wrestling. And I'm going, for me, I just kept bitching about it to myself, to everybody, while working hard. And I went to a point where, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling on this episode, but I said I need to fucking create something for myself. And I created my promotion and created my, started my wrestling schools and stuff, and now hijacking all your bookings as your agent, and I'll be
running the coupon scam on me now.
brothering myself on these world tours coming up.
I think I'm working you for the next 3 months.
There was a couple of promotions like, can he just work you? And I'm like, well, yeah, he could.
Can you bring the fur trunks?
I was actually thinking about that before.
I was wondering if is that professional or not. And I was like, who the fuck cares?
What,
like,
fur trunks?
No, working each other.
It is. Some circles would in the Northeast area be okay. Anywhere else, it'd be, who the fuck is this guy? Like,
it's actually the 4,500 is like, oh, we'll give you 35 and you keep the grant. Like, you're lowering my bookings and taking the other portion to get the match. But no, it's all in good fun.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to these upcoming bookings because right now, as we talk,
I can't wait to wrestle again. And hopefully by the time this airs, I should be back and working I know I got some signings early on.
A lot of signings.
I had the nose and ear surgery, which a lot of people, we didn't talk about that. And, I had a hole in my eardrum for 11 years. I got hit in my ear.
Deep South?
Deep South Wrestling. And Eric Perez
that's what it
hit me with the palm of his hand.
He just added me on Facebook yesterday.
Oh, really?
That's weird, yeah.
He lived with me briefly, and there was a lot of weird shit that went on down in Deep South, and we don't have to necessarily go here or there with it, but I got my eardrum busted, and it was bad. The hole never healed up, and so I couldn't, I haven't been able to go underwater or swim, or I've got ear infections for 11 years because you get a little bit of shower water in there, and it just it flares it up, and the WWE, I always had the doctors there always had to prescribe me eardrops, and it was just to the point where this last year on the road, I was home, and I woke up one morning and my entire left side of my face, it looked like I had a tumor growing out of my jaw, and I just out of nowhere, from going to sleep being totally fine.
This year? Or?
Yeah, and it was on my left side. And so I was out of the eardrops for a while, and I would always I'd use the eardrops and my ear would be good for a while. And then it would just, you're so busy on the road, and I would always kind of know, I could feel it when it was coming on, the ear infection. This one though, I didn't. It just hit me one night. My face, the ear infection went. What happens is, and I didn't know this, it goes into your face.
Okay.
And then a lot of Navy SEALs, I guess, get this, is what I was told, where they have ruptured eardrums, or a perforation of their eardrum, and the infection can spread inside your body, and you can eventually go to your limbs, and a lot of people have had limbs amputated. And I just know from the fact that my entire left side of my face looked like I had just this huge balloon blowing out of the side of my cheek. And so I thought, at the time I didn't even, because I didn't have any symptoms of the ear infection, I was like, oh, maybe I got bit by something. Or so that day, I think I took a Benadryl or two, and I went about the day, I'll be fine. That next night, and I have sleep apnea and I have to wear the mask. I couldn't even put the mask on. It hurt so bad. And I tried to fall asleep, and I think I took some ZQuil or something to try to, because I was just lying there, and it just hurt so bad. And it was 3:30 in the morning, and I had to drive across town to the urgent care emergency, and they had to give me antibiotics and these really strong eardrops.
Shit.
And they told me, you're going to have to eventually get this fixed. It's that hole is really good sized. And so when everything happened here when I decided to walk away, the one thing I said is that in my nose, which I got broken also my first year, and I've never been able to breathe through my nose ever. And it was please, I want to get this fixed. Yeah. And it was just after that I got it fixed, and I'm finally better. But I think I got 1 more week to go before my nose I'm allowed to
That's right. Okay.
So you got to give it a little bit of time for the bone. It feels great now, but I have 1 more week essentially before I could resume jiu-jitsu, boxing, and wrestling training and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to it.
Where the fuck were we? How do we get to the injuries part?
I think we're talking about going to FCW period essentially, though.
Yeah.
But we're just going where the story takes us, or the booze. No, but it's getting rehired and going down to FCW and being back in the developmental system, and it's amazing, this journey and looking back and reliving all of this. And I look at that period and FCW, and I was gone from home for 7 years by the time I moved back.
Sure.
WWE, and that's a long time to be gone. And before you even make it, because when you make it to the road, you're gone.
Yeah.
But at least you get to go home for at least a day.
Did you go home at all?
Only for Christmas. I didn't go home for 2 years at one point.
I mean, when you got rehired,
I went home briefly.
Okay.
That was the first Christmas home in 2 years.
All right.
Which was a long time to be away from home and not see anybody. I didn't talk to my parents there for probably a good portion of a year, I believe. I was just so depressed and ashamed of myself. And I think they would call, and like, it might be a quick conversation, real quick, something I got to go by. And like, I was just it went on way too long. And that's one of the things now. I live 5 minutes from my dad, and my mom lives in my 2-bedroom apartment suite at home.
It's amazing.
I'm very thankful that my sister's in Reno. She likes living there. She's married. And I have my dogs and my dad and my mom all within 5 minutes of myself. And so I'm always thankful for what wrestling has allowed me to do with that, and to kind of bring my family closer together. And it's a work in progress.
Well, especially because, too, and I think people don't equate, like, again, I've mentioned this before, the whole kind of, quote, prejudice thing.
Yeah.
Because I think people may not look at you and go, you didn't pay your dues.
Yeah.
Or that you're not a fucking, but it's like, you hear all this. You live so far from home for so long.
Yeah. We all pay them in different ways. Some
Yeah.
is seen, some is unseen. And
that's a good point.
in this day and age, it's like they feel like I think they have to see it for it to happen.
Or they have to hear about it. They have to hear about the long indie journeyman trail. And not that I'm much of a journeyman. I mean, I've been around for a while, but
It's always hurt me though when I hear the negative things, because I'm like, they just don't know me, and I always feel all the negative stuff is from people that don't know me, and it's like, guys, come on, like, don't be so judgmental. You haven't walked in my shoes. You don't know what I.
Well, I can equate that to something, and it kind of, not that it bugs me, but it kind of does bug me, is that I feel that there's so many tales in wrestling and so many people that I think fans honestly should know about, whether it be independently or that are not, maybe, I don't know, like there's so many journeymen and wrestlers that fans don't know about because they don't work for the promotions that are accepted by the smarky population.
Yeah.
And it's kind of upsetting because I've known of people who have worked over a decade in wrestling, and smart fans think they know everything and everyone. Myself included with, this was kind of a bummer, but at the same time I accept it and I run with it. Like, Cody walks away from WWE and he makes a list of people he wants to wrestle.
Yeah.
And I'm on that list. And,
that's a tremendous honor. I feel
it was
like,
cool, and it was like, because I was his first match, and
we all are connected, me, you, Cody, and like, with that whole
brotherhood of
OVW
people,
crew.
And everyone's like, oh, I know everybody on the list except Pat Buck, and I'm like, motherfucker, I started in 2001.
Yep.
And it's a shame because there's a lot of people with that. I think as wrestling goes on, there's luckily there's been more exposure for. I think that it's a good time in wrestling where there's not companies up and coming, but it's a good time to be a professional wrestler in terms of there's more opportunity from guys on the independents. But it's also a shame where fans think they're so smart and they know everything. And I love all the fans, I do, but there's some that just go, if you're not in these three different promotions, who the fuck are you? We don't care about you. And I think that sucks.
And they just have to be more open to the way they think. And that's one of the things with you I've always admired is your work ethic. I think that's one of the things that we kind of have in common. And I remember, living together in Utah, I just busted out 500 Hindu squats. And like, I always I'm in the gym 3-4 hours a lot of times. And just, I think we have that work ethic thing in common. And everything you have is because of your work ethic, and everything I have is because of my work ethic. And I think that's kind of the common connection. And everybody works hard in their own way and in different ways. But it sucks when you hear negative things like that, and that the work that you put in, and you're talented, how good you are, but because they haven't necessarily seen you before because they're limited to their views of what they watch and whatnot. So it's just it is what it is, and you just make the most of it and you use it to fuel you and drive you and to even work harder and for yourself. But I think that comes to, you know who and what you are. I know who and what I am. And it sucks to hear that sort of thing from people, but like you can't let it affect you negatively, and you never have. But it's,
it goes to show you, but also at the same time too, sometimes I'm very thankful for, like I said, you've had your whole documented, people at least knew you're an OVW, you're an FCW, you debut on the Rock, you go to NXT, the first show, have your run. It kind of brings us to the point now, because I think the last time we talked, it was basically you going to FCW, and I followed shortly, and I tried to be a referee.
Yep.
But more so how you get rehired as a character.
Yeah.
As Ryback. This Terminator thing, this could draw some money for us. This guy's a badass. He has a built-in persona based off Terminator. Because
I had to adjust it from what it was at OVW, because it was very machined, and we're not selling a lot and whatnot. And we were okay. This is now WWE contracted talent. But
at the same time, you and I both know that if anything's pushed the right way, it'll fucking work.
Absolutely.
It's like,
you again. Once you are in the system, you gotta work within the system, and you have people making the calls above you and that are doing the reports, and you can't really know, this is what I need to be doing, this is going to work, and you kind of got to adjust, and we did just that. But I'll never forget going down there, and I was so big on mental preparation, and I to this day am, that I remember I showed up in the Ryback character on promo day down there, whatever, with Dusty Rhodes, and I got so much out of this, and you never do it. Those promos were always harder than a promo in front of crowds, because they're in front of your peers in a cold arena.
That's the worst.
And everybody's fucking judging.
It's the fucking worst.
And what do you think about that? What do you think about that? And like, you don't want to have to say anything bad about your, but like everybody, they force it kind of like, well, I thought he could have been better on, and like, well, fuck you. Like it was a horrible environment, but it was also, it was good in many other ways. But, I remember just sitting in the corner, hyping myself up, talking to my promo and like to the wall. And then finally I just turned around. I was like, I'm ready. And I went up there and I nailed it. And Dusty put me on TV. I came right in. And that was when like with NXT now, and like, it's not easy to get on TV necessarily and it was like FCW at that time. It's like they had their TV established, and they kind of had their guys, and so like it was
an hour slot, and you have how many guys there, like 40, 50, 60
so like
guys?
New guys coming in don't necessarily get put right on TV. And I came in and they put me right on TV, and it was like we were off and running. But it was, so I had to tie this all in, my first year in Deep South Wrestling, and I've talked about how difficult that was down there. There was a point down there where I injured my right shoulder, and things are not like they are now, whereas if you get hurt or you get injured or you think you might have tweaked something, where you go get it looked at to avoid anything more serious and whatnot. And I had tweaked my shoulder, and rather than kind of letting it rest maybe for a day or two or getting it checked out, I had to then run a clothesline drill on everybody, and clothesline guys as they ran into me as hard as they can, and I had to force them to bump. There was a lot.
What was this? Fuck that.
It was down with Bill DeMott, and I love
it. Was this Deep South?
Deep South.
I thought it was FCW. I was like, no, that sounds weird.
And so this is my shoulder. I fucked up my shoulder really, really bad down there after that drill. Like I tweaked it, and it wasn't. There were a lot of ridiculous. You hear a lot of things, and it was what it was, and I've taken all of it out of it, and but it's the truth. It's what happened.
Yeah.
And like, so I'm not gonna fucking lie and act like it didn't happen. It happened, and it hurt me really bad. And I just always thought like, oh, this is wrestling. You just wrestle hurt and you deal with it. And it got to the point that years of working out with this and whatnot, that I had torn my shoulder. I had a tear in my rotator cuff and a rear tear in my labrum, but I had torn my bicep tendon that was hanging by a thread. They told me they were amazed, like it was still like I was curling and like everything, and like they said you're one curl essentially away from this thing, your bicep just rolling down. And so I had to get it fixed. So I'm in there. I was so paranoid because I had just gotten rehired, and at that time, I'm not going to speak up and go, well, this was an injury from 3 years ago. This is what happened. You just didn't talk about it. And it kind of just was the way things were. And sent and got it fixed, and it kind of took away a lot of the momentum that I'd had as the Ryback character. So here I come back. I'm not back wrestling yet, but I'm about to be cleared. And I remember Undertaker came down to FCW, and you were here for this. I think we were living together at this point. And CM Punk actually was there with Taker, and I'd spent a bunch of money on, got a new Ryback outfit made, and I was all, geeked up and jazzed up to I had a promo cut on the Undertaker for Ryback, and it was a weird thing having him just sitting there staring at you as you're in the ring and cutting a promo on him, and you're like, who's this guy? You know what I mean? And but I thought I'd put my heart and soul into it, and I remember afterwards, I think Taker didn't approve of it or something.
It was something along the lines of like, it's too 80s, or like it's not believable. I
think that was kind of, they said it was too 80s, and which is funny looking back.
Coming from the man that throws lightning.
Yeah.
I mean, the greatest worker
absolutely
potentially ever, but still.
And at that point, when you're in developmental, you get the critique, you just fucking get critiqued left and right. That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
And you just take it, and everything happened for a good reason and all that. But so when you get a guy like the Undertaker says something like that,
it's gospel. Yeah.
It's changes have to be made. So I get called in the office with Dusty Rhodes, and he just tells me, he goes, I want you to do, you're a funny guy. We need to get away from this Ryback character. And I'm
defeated, probably.
Everything in my mind with the positivity, and I'd created this, and we have something with this, and you just love this. What are you talking about? Now you're being told you can't like this, but you told me you love this. And he goes, I need you to come up with a new character. And he goes, I go, can you help me out? And he goes, all these stupid football players, they hire with no experience.
Yeah, real stories. Yeah.
He goes, you're not like that. He goes, but I want you to make fun of it. And he goes, you're a stupid former football player. And I go, okay. And I went home, and I remember that night I didn't put in, fuck this is stupid. I'm Ryback. I fucking created Ryback. And the next day, I think it was like the weekend or something. And the next day I reread The Secret again, and I go, this is an opportunity to make something, to make it work. And I started watching wrestling, and I saw a thing on one of the wrestling DVDs for Sheffield, England. And I just remember I loved Gary Sheffield, the baseball player, as a kid.
Okay.
And I go, Sheffield's a cool last name. and then somewhere, I don't know if it was, I remember being a kid when I was a guest bell ringer at 13 years old at Thomas and Mack. I've talked about this in countless interviews, that Dr. Tom Pritchard, who to this day has been such a huge influence. I love Dr. Tom. If you're listening, thank you for just believing in me and letting me go out there and have fun. The first person to ever do that. And I don't know if it was something, I was watching something, I remember that moment, and it was, Skip was one of the names of one of the Body Donnas. And
sure.
And I don't know, for whatever reason, the name Skip Sheffield kind of popped in my head, and I was Skip Sheffield. I go, I could do something. Oh,
sounds like a happy-go-lucky piece of
guy.
shit.
And also, my first year in Deep South Wrestling, there was this
happy-go-lucky piece of shit.
Big dumb fuck corn-fed meathead.
Still my favorite character.
The most fun I've ever had to this day. There was a guy at Deep South Wrestling named Skip, who was a firefighter, a big bald-headed firefighter who was looked like he could just eat you alive, but he was the nicest man in the world.
Okay.
So that was kind of the motivation, all that in one with Skip Sheffield, with that. Well, that's kind of a stupid name, but you have this physical look that kind of says otherwise.
I get it. Yeah, sure.
And then, so I started brainstorming with that. And then I was like, well, Dusty likes, Texas A&M.
Yeah,
Texas
A&M. There's
A&M
Longhorns, and there's
Longhorn, Texas Longhorn, sorry. So College Station is what he didn't like. So I was like, I'll be from College Station. I'll be a big, dumb, stupid College Station fucking redneck. And in the shower one night, I was trying to come up with a promo, and I don't know where it came out, but I just said, yep. And then I remembered Nick Mitchell down, he used to be part of Mitch from the Spirit Squad, used to say, what it do?
Okay.
Down, that was kind of like, what it do? And like the Miz, that was kind of always like, we all were around each other, that circle. And I just, yep. What it do? And I remember, I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool.
Okay.
Or not cool.
Sure.
But that was where the ball started, the wheels started turning for Skip Sheffield. And I wrote a promo out, came up with this stupid cowboy accent, what I thought was a cowboy accent or whatnot. and had these tight blue jeans with these brown like tight boot shoes. And I brought in a can of butter spray because Skip Sheffield wouldn't put on baby oil. He would put on butter spray for whatever fucking reason. And I went up there one day and cut a promo, and the entire class stood up and applauded. And it was like Skip Sheffield was born.
I think they were into the character, or they appreciated the fact more that you were stepping outside a comfort zone and doing your fucking job as a good soldier and listening to... I don't know.
I would have liked to believe that Skip Sheffield elicited that response out of the crowd. He'd reeled him in.
But we feel bad for it. No,
it could have been that I had been this Terminator type character and very serious, and they just saw a whole other side of me, and I think that was a big part of it, that this guy's willing to step out of his comfort zone and try anything. And it was one of those moments. It was because we're all vying for that, to get the fuck out of there. And like, you want everyone to do good, but you don't want anyone to do better than you, and or whatnot. It's kind of like the mindset. And so that was a big moment, and Skip Sheffield was born, and Dusty Rhodes used Skip Sheffield on everything. And I was booked on every TV, on every live event. I always had adequate TV time. He gave me promo time every week. And
well, I mean, it goes to clearly that was it, because when they did the NXT project, they picked the 7 or 8 top guys.
And John Laurinaitis always said, in at that point in time, Skip Sheffield was, and not tooting my own horn, I was, with the FCW crowd, I was very over down there, I feel like. And that was kind of, I feel, what John Laurinaitis always used to say, like, get over in developmental and we'll give you an opportunity on the main roster. And I think that was, I had earned it at that point, and that was part of the the reasoning of putting me on that first season of NXT.
Wow. Okay. Shit. I just remember it looked like it was a weird time in OVW, because the system I was still hanging around there, and they were still in business, and we started drawing a lot of houses that were bigger than when Developmental was there.
Well, we had Alfred Simpson, who Simpson isn't his last name, but Alfred.
I still talk to Alfred quite a bit.
He messaged me a while back on Facebook, compliment, like, with everything going on. Okay. I was amazed that he was following me. I didn't have no idea. So he was big on. He did a lot of the promotions.
Oh, sure,
promotional stuff for FCW. And
I was saying, before I went there, and I was still hanging around while you're doing the stuff, and I was like, fuck, where do I like? There came a point in OVW where I was like, I can't be here any longer. I've been here 4.5 years.
It's time to move on.
I remember you, Hawkins, Trent, Croft were like, hey, just fucking move down here. Like, maybe we can, it's not the same thing, but maybe we can try to get you in the class or something. And I moved down there. And then I tried to become a referee
But you moved down there, and I don't think you moved in with me right away.
No, I lived with Matthews and Bayless.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and you lived with
Becky Bayless. Yeah. I forgot all about that.
Oh, Jesus Christ. She's still around.
But you've always been very, very good with teaching other talents. And with your
thing where it sucked going from the system to system, because I didn't know Kern, I didn't know Norman, I didn't know anyone down there. But then
you won them over fairly
when
quickly.
I was there, everyone's like, how the fuck does this guy know everybody? And then I joined the beginner class, which was like kind of not humiliating, but I was like, I got to get my way in here.
That was your way of just but you eventually, before you know it, you're teaching
I was teaching, right? Yeah. At the end of the class, it was, I remember I joined, basically, long story short, I was kind of trying to get my foot in FCW. All those years of OVW, they didn't go nowhere. So I was like, maybe I could be the fresh guy at FCW. And I joined the beginner program. And at first, they're like, okay, maybe this kid's... They didn't know what the fuck I could do or could not do. And I didn't know Norman. I didn't know Kern. I knew Doc. But, I didn't know the powers of... I didn't know Dusty. And I joined the beginner program. And they're like, why the fuck are you here? But by the end of... Or shortly there, they were like, hey, Norman's in one ring, Kern's in the other, and then they had me in the other one, fucking teaching,
people that would eventually be hired. Some of the Brittany Bede, I think, was one of them.
Jamie Keys, Keys she was one of them.
Had a short run in WWE.
That's right. She would actually pay me for private lessons. That was one of the best.
Oh, lucky you!
Gigs I'd roll around her. I would teach her legitimately.
Yeah. Come on.
That wasn't bad.
You're getting married here. I'm sorry we can't be talking about that.
That's okay. It was a pretty sweet gig.
That was Norman. Norman always was working with the girls. I was like, what a job.
Great
job. Just roll around with hot chicks all day.
That was one of the things, though, not to fucking make this show about myself, but like the idea came up, and Laurinaitis was like, oh, I'm okay with this. Where I wasn't a big guy, but I wasn't small. I mean, there's the referees my size, like whatever, Chad Doan and whatever his name is. I forget the other guy's name, but they're like, oh, he could work with the girls, and if they get lost, he's a good enough hand. He can direct them through. I'm like, you're gonna hire me as a Divas referee? I'm like, fuck yes. And then it didn't work out. And I remember, but I
remember that when I was like, what are you doing? Because they wanted to hire you as a referee, and you had your reasons, and like,
well, they fucking told me, they're like, look, like there's no position. I had the tryout, or they brought me to TV, and then they came out of the production meeting, and Kern's like, oh, we just talked about you in there. And I'm like, I saw Vince there. I was like, what, in there? He's like, yeah. And he's like, yo, you're gonna referee tonight and tomorrow, and then we'll see what happens. I'm like, cool. And it didn't happen. I ended up wrestling Crime Time.
Yeah, I remember that in Orlando. I think it was, but you're so much better off for that. That's a job you don't want to have.
No, it's not,
and especially in today's environment over there and what's required. And like, you're not just a referee, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
But you're not that type of person, so you're better off not being there.
So that was it. And I remember I felt kind of bad leaving the apartment too. I was like, I can't go any further, like, because they told me there's no referee job for you at the moment, but when there is one, you're getting it. I'm like, yes. And then they hired 2 more referees, and then which weren't me.
You had to do what was best for you, and it wasn't staying there. And
I was like, I gotta go. You're like, really?
You could stay around for so long and watch so many people be hired, and time again, like years have gone by now, and you made 100% made the right move. You moved back home and
eventually got the wheels going with
and
this
look
shit.
At what you've done. You're now sitting here in conversation with the big guy.
Yeah, I've made it, guys. Shit, let's hope this fucking sponsor money rolls in.
5 viewers. So I ended up with Skip Sheffield. Everything is going well, and NXT comes around, and here we go, and they pick the 8 of us: Wade Barrett, Heath Slater, Darren Young, Daniel Bryan, and Justin Gabriel, David Otunga, and Michael Tarver, I believe, is all of us. I apologize if I'm leaving out any. I think that's everyone. And we went up there, we did NXT, and that show was anything but wrestling, essentially. It was kind of more like of a American Gladiators meets WWE
Who's
creative.
Your coach? Was it Regal?
Yeah, it was supposed to be MVP, and then something happened with that, and then it was switched to William Regal. And he's always been very, very good to me, and he's well respected amongst everyone.
Absolutely,
there.
yeah.
And he's always told me straight. He even told me right off the bat, I don't think you should do this character. I go, in all fairness, I go, what am I supposed to do? I don't have a character. I can't. What is my name? What am I? This is why they brought me up here.
Yeah.
And I just said, I have to try. I don't know what else to do. And he goes, I understand that. But like, I think he kind of, in being in the system and knowing Vince and whatnot, knew that this wasn't, I was playing a character and it wasn't true to myself.
What happened? I mean, you go through the whole Nexus, was it Nexus stuff, injury, brought back as Ryback? Was that it?
Yeah, but it was, so it's NXT, and I think I didn't debut on the first episode, which is kind of is like, well, geez. Mm-hmm. That kind of is like, well,
that sucks.
It sucks. But what can you do? All right, I'm on episode 2, but I can already see like I wasn't a focal point. Like it wasn't what they were focusing on. And Vince came up to me, I think after week 2 or 3, and he just said, I need you to get away from this character. Mm-hmm. This isn't you. You're going to make me millions of dollars being yourself. And I said, cool. That's a lot. It's great to get that feedback from the boss that early on. And but what do I do? I've already debuted as Skip Sheffield, and like now I just show back up the next week, and like he goes, slowly get away from it. So if you go back and watch that show, you'll see I think I lose the cowboy hat eventually, and then I try to like do the old Ryback spiked vest, but it was a Skip Sheffield one. Okay. But I was just trying anything to try to get, but I was still talking in the accent, and I was just on there, and it was only 2 or 3 weeks of doing it, but like, you can't just change overnight.
Yeah, you can't do it. Yeah.
Looking back, it would have been the easy thing to like, just start.
Forget it never existed.
And because what I eventually just did start being serious on with the Nexus thing. So NXT runs out. We do the NXT thing. Wade Barrett, I believe, was the winner of it. So the rest of us didn't know what was going to happen. Like, do we go back to developmental, or are we getting fired? It was such a weird time. But had this idea, I guess. And it was in Miami, and we're all brought to TV.
Okay.
And this is after NXT had run its course. And we're brought into a room with Vince and Johnny and Michael Hayes, where they explained to us the Nexus. And we have one chance, one opportunity to go out there and get over. And if we don't, we're going to be fucking fired. And like, I mean, our whole lives we've worked for this. And we were not given any instructions except to go out there and just cause hell and to tear shit apart and to go out there and get over, which is the best thing you could be told to do without any.
And it was a brilliant idea.
Yeah,
I mean, it was.
But again, they just let us go out there and do it outside of in the physicality with John.
Sure.
At the time, outside of knowing what that was going to be, none of us really knew anything else going on. Just tear the ring apart. We haven't done this before, and let just cause chaos. And I think there was a couple things where hit this guy here, hit that guy there, where you kind of, but we didn't know when, and it came. It was such a beautiful moment, and it was something I'll forever be thankful to be a part of, and to be able to feel that. That's why you do this, to feel that.
Yeah,
whether good or bad, it was just you made people believe in that one moment that what you're out there doing was absolutely real, and they didn't like it. And it was such a powerful, magical thing that we had that night. And we were off and running, and that got me away from the goofy, silly, corn-fed meathead Skip Sheffield. Problem was, my name was still fucking Skip Sheffield.
Yeah.
And I wasn't talking with the accent. I don't think I was talking. I did a couple promos with the Nexus where we all talked in the ring and whatnot. But it was an opportunity for me to be.
Well, it felt like that was kind of booked pretty good too, in a sense where it was like Wade was a focal leader.
Yeah.
It felt like you were like the general in command, like the next in line.
I was like the weapon of mass destruction, essentially.
There.
Yeah,
I was like, there's actually thought into this,
and I think that all naturally kind of happened with the relationship me and Wade have, and we've always been very close. And he was, clearly the verbal leader, and the minds behind everything, the brains behind everything. And I'll never forget, we were driving one night, and this was actually, remember Spice? We talked about this briefly. Spice, which it was.
I mean, to give horrible. A definitive thing, the wellness policy got very, very strict.
Yeah.
And I mean, was weed a suspension? Marijuana was a.
I believe that's when it just got it. They had just, put that in there.
Yeah, and there was guys, and there was a, for those that are, big weed people, there's an alternative to it, and now it's known as K2. But
it's horrible for you.
It's terrible. But people didn't know that. There was just like
everyone thought this was a cool legal way to
exactly,
and it kind of caught on, and how everything else does.
And weed should be legal, absolutely, I think, at least. But or my opinion. But then this stuff called K2 or Spice or whatever, a lot of the boys would partake in this. And let's just say the drug of choice in New York City, where I'm from, is the bums in the street don't really do crack anymore. They do K2 because it's cheaper and it gets you that messed up, and it's just not a good thing.
And we were joking about this earlier, where I talked about, as Skip Sheffield in FCW, I was at home and had a night with that stuff.
Yep.
And there were different versions of it, and some were better than others. In this particular version I had, I believe it was Mr. Good Time. It was anything but a good time. And I was watching a match of myself as Skip Sheffield, and I questioned my living as a man and just internally who I was as a human being. And it was so deep that I was sitting there watching. I go, I'm a grown man and I'm fake fighting. What the fuck is wrong with me? And I'm pretending to be a fucking cowboy. And I sat there and I couldn't wrap my mind around it. And I go, what the fuck is wrong with me? It overwhelmed me. And I smoked a bunch more and then just passed out and woke up. Oh, thank God, I feel okay. And but I remember just laughing. And then other wrestlers had the same story.
Exact thing. I remember hearing
would
this.
Just make you have these tripped out feelings and
were
they tripped out though? Because it's 100% true.
It's like I'm taking these dangerous moves and I'm dressed as that's really, maybe it's a good drug. I don't fucking know. Oh man!
But I felt very negatively about it. I remember but we were in a driving, and we at that time with all the Nexus stuff, we were told like we weren't allowed to associate with the other guys. It was kayfabe was in full effect, and we had to ride together, work out together, not talk to. And if we saw John Cena in the gym, we weren't even to look at him. It was like that. That was that enforced, or so we thought at the time.
Sure.
And we're in the car driving, and I remember I had a little bout with it, and I go, you're either Nexus or you're against us. And then Heath or somebody said it back. And then whoever else, Gabriel was in the car and he said it. And then Wade or someone was in the car and Wade's and then we just kept saying it. And so I go, that's our catchphrase. That's our catchphrase. And one day Wade had a promo after we did something on TV or a pay-per-view. And there was just, he was amazing at being able to handle, looking back. He was superior to all of us, I felt, as far as being able to handle the promos.
Okay.
He's a very intelligent individual, and everybody there is. But he always handled that pressure, I felt, better than everybody else, which is why he was the leader. And he had just cut a promo on something, and there was a gap, and I could tell he was forming his thoughts, or he needed to close. And I walked right behind him and I go, drop the line, Wade. And then he goes, you're either Nexus or you're against us. And that was it just came off perfect. And the week after we had shirts.
Whoa.
With that on. And we're off and running. And it was just an amazing, amazing thing. And it happened so fast, but I'm thankful for every moment of it.
Man. All right.
That leads us to eventually to the infamous ankle injury, which not a lot is known about that. So
I think injuries, especially this one in particular, I think maybe we'll leave for the next episode. We're 41 minutes deep into this podcast. I'll plug some stuff. Go to feedmemore.com. Please check out WrestleProOnline.com or CreativeProWrestling.com. I'm Buck Never Stops on Twitter.
I am the big guy Ryback, and you've just listened to an episode of Conversation with the Big Guy. Thank you.